Hi everyone, and welcome to the channel. What if a relaxed late-night talk show turned into a gripping, unforgettable confrontation? What if one of Hollywood's most magnetic stars stormed off during the broadcast? Not over scandal, but over something far more profound. Tonight we're dissecting the blazing conflict between Jamie Foxx and Stephen Colbert, an incident that shook the entertainment industry to its core and revealed just how tenuous professional boundaries are. Subscribe and leave a comment with your opinions, because what you're about to learn may forever alter how you perceive late-night television. It was supposed to be a celebration. Jamie Foxx was returning to the spotlight in a big way after being absent for months because of a mysterious health scare. The crowd was abuzz, so happy to have him back on his feet, smiling, energetic, and set to entertain. This was set to be his comeback performance on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. But from the moment he set foot on stage, everything did not feel right. Stephen's standard charm, wherever he was, it wasn't here. Forgotten was the warm welcome he usually offers A-listers. In its place was a flat tone, a hardly there smile. "Ladies and gentlemen, Jamie Foxx," he said, politely but with no warmth. Jamie still took to the stage with the energy that fans adore him for, greeting the crowd with a big smile and outstretched arms. He looked healthy, strong, full of life. As they sat, Stephen gestured and said, "Jamie, good to have you back." But behind the words was an icy edge. Jamie sensed it. So did the audience. Jamie replied with dignity, "Appreciate it for having me, man. The crowd tonight is fantastic." He was attempting to diffuse the tension. But then the first bomb fell from Stephen. "Well, they're glad you're alive and well. There were some questions about that a while back, weren't there?" The room changed. Laughter hung in the air. Jamie's smile dropped for a second, but he remained calm. "Health scares happen," Jamie answered. "I'm just thankful. Thankful for my family, my team, and everyone who was there for me back then." But Stephen pressed harder. "Supported you through what exactly? You've been very vague. Some folks think you're doing this whole mysterious thing for publicity." It wasn't just uncomfortable now. It was personal. The audience fell silent, strained. Jamie inched forward, standing his ground. "Stephen, I've said what I'm willing to say. My health, my family, those are sacred to me, and I believe most folks get that." But Stephen wasn't done. Do they? Because the internet hasn't been nice. There are individuals claiming you faked the entire thing, that it was only a publicity stunt to promote your next endeavor. How do you respond to them? Jamie's smile had now completely disappeared, his tone hard. "I'd say those individuals weren't there. They weren't in the hospital with my daughter, praying she wouldn't lose her daddy. I'd say people can believe what they want. But I know what I experienced. I know my reality. It was honest, it was brutal. But rather than backing off, Stephen continued to press. Still, you have to know why people are not believing. You vanished for months, no press conferences, no explicit answers, and that was when Jamie had had enough. He stopped, began to breathe in slow, deep gasps, and met Stephen's gaze, head on. Then, with no further words, stood up. The crowd gasped. Jamie turned towards the crowd, nodded briefly in gratitude, and exited off stage, leaving Stephen aghast and incapable of speech in front of a live audience. Seconds later, the broadcast went to commercial, but the damage was already done. The headlines would write themselves. What went down that night wasn't about two individuals fighting. It was about boundaries, trust, and the unwritten host-guest code that, in one dramatic instant, was utterly destroyed. So, was Stephen in the wrong, or was Jamie keeping something from us? Tell us what you think in the comments. And if you want more inside scoop Hollywood doesn't want you to know, don't forget to subscribe. Because in this world of glitz and glamour, sometimes the real drama happens off script. And then suddenly, you're back with a Netflix special and a brand new movie. The timing? Well, some might say it feels convenient. Jamie's voice lifted just enough for the audience to hear the edge behind it. Convenient, he echoed. You think nearly dying is convenient? You think putting your family in a living hell was all part of some marketing scheme? What are you trying to say here, Stephen? I'm not saying anything, Stephen shot back. I'm asking the questions that the audience wants answered. Isn't that what journalism is for? But his voice wasn't curious anymore. It was stinging. It was challenging. Jamie's patience was slipping. His voice held steady, but his words cut deep. This isn't journalism, man. This is a late-night talk show. People tune in to laugh, to unwind, to escape their problems for a while. What you're doing right now, this isn't entertainment. This is an ambush. The studio was quiet. The laughter was over. The vibe had been totally flipped, and it was palpable to everyone. Yet Stephen continued, appearing not to notice or not to care about the unease he was causing. An ambush? Come on, Jamie. These are reasonable questions. Your fans were concerned. They stood behind you. Don't they deserve a little honesty? Don't they deserve the truth? Jamie came forward, sitting up a little in his seat. The mask of calmness that he had worn so convincingly was finally starting to crack. The truth, he said. The truth is, I nearly lost everything. I spent weeks not knowing if I'd ever be able to work again, if I'd ever get to see my kids grow up. The truth is, when I was struggling to stay alive, people like you were out there spinning stories, creating conspiracy theories, running after headlines. Stephen's eyes became narrow. His face flushed. People like me? What's that mean? It means individuals who tear others down, rather than building them up. Individuals who let someone hit rock bottom so they can strike. Individuals who use the guise of journalism as a disguise for being outright cruel. It was now Stephen's turn to become defensive. I take offense to that suggestion, Jamie, he snapped. I've made a career out of asking the tough questions, of holding individuals accountable. If you can't stand that, perhaps you shouldn't be doing press at all. Jamie's gaze hardened. His voice was frigid. Holding people accountable for what? For becoming ill? For experiencing a medical emergency I didn't invite? What precisely do you think I need to be held accountable for? You could sense the tension in the room. Even the camera crew hesitated, wondering whether to switch off the feed or continue to record this live breakdown. But Stephen didn't stop. Perhaps, he spoke slowly, perhaps the question is what you should be held responsible for. He dripped with judgment. Because from where I sit, it looks like you disappeared when things got tough. Left work undone, left co-stars in limbo, and now you just reappear like nothing's happened. The audience gasped. You could have heard a pin drop. Individuals in the front row looked absolutely stunned. Stephen's words did not merely sting, they seared. Jamie gazed down at him, eyes piercing with fury. And for the first time since he took the stage, he appeared enraged. Saikat Majumdar. Left my projects hanging, he echoed. Stephen, I was in a hospital. I was fighting for my life. You have any idea what that is? Do you know how it feels to wake up and not know the previous 2 weeks of your life? To have your family informed that they were to prepare for the worst? Stephen reclined, but maintained his position. I know you had some serious health problems, Jamie, but you're a pro. Folks rely on you. When you sign deals, when studios put millions into your films, when you have hundreds of people depending on you for a paycheck, maybe just possibly You owe them more than silence. That was all. Jamie stood up in full now, looming over Stephen, who still sat, clearly attempting to maintain his composure. But it was evident they had gone too far. Both of them. And the audience watched a train wreck they'd never be able to forget. Shaken by Jamie's physicality, Stephen attempted to regain the energy in his favor. Radio silence, Jamie repeated. My staff spoke to anyone who had to be informed. Legal worked the contracts. Insurance managed the productions. All of that was done by the book, professionally, correctly. He paused, staring at Stephen. But that wasn't good enough for people like you. People who believe they're owed every detail of someone's medical emergency. For entertainment. Sit down, Jamie, Stephen said firmly, his voice tight as he attempted to regain control. You're making this more dramatic than it needs to be. Jamie didn't sit. His voice rose, his frustration finally boiling over. Dramatic? You want to be dramatic in this situation? He told me, his voice roughened by pain. Dramatic is waking up with a tube down your throat and not knowing if you're going to breathe on your own anymore. Dramatic is seeing your daughter sob at the bedside of your hospital bed thinking that her father is going to die. Dramatic is relearning to walk, to talk, to think because your brain is no longer working like it used to. And the crowd was held in stunned silence. The studio tension was no longer palpable. It was charged. Even the band members sat with their mouths agape, watching in awe. Stephen's face flushed red, but far from backing down, he intensified. And yet here you are, perfectly good, doing the rounds of the media, marketing your special, your film. How quickly you recovered when there was profit to be made. The audience visibly winced. It wasn't an insult, it was a slap. Jamie looked around the room, noticing the aghast faces of others who had attended, expecting laughter and good-natured jokes, but instead beheld a public disintegration. You know what, Stephen? Jamie stated, voice clearer now, but thick with disappointment. I came here because I believed we were friends. I believed we'd laugh together, share stories, maybe even move someone. But this isn't about entertaining you. This is personal. Stephen jeered. Personal? Jamie, I don't even know you. This is about responsibility, honesty. Don't lie to me. And don't lie to the folks in this room. Jamie edged forward. Don't lie? He said, his voice increasing again. This is at the awards ceremony, 3 years ago. It's about the joke you told during your speech. It's about your ego not being able to take being the punchline for one time in your life. Stephen's mask of calmness cracked. That's absurd. I don't even recall what joke you're referring to. Oh, you remember, said Jamie, nodding. You mentioned it to 3 different people at the after party. You remember because you've been sneaking little jabs at me in your monologue since then. You remember because your writers have been shopping jokes about me for months. And tonight, you thought you finally had your chance to take me down. The studio was frozen. No laughter, no clapping, just breathless attention. This isn't an interview anymore, Jamie continued. This is years of resentment, finally boiling over on national television. Stephen was sweating now. His polished, professional TV mask was slipping fast. You're being paranoid, he said weakly. Not everything is about you. Paranoid? Jamie asked. Your own writers informed my publicist of your encounter last week. About how you told, and I quote, "It's time someone brings Jamie down a peg." They were uneasy. They believed that you went too far. Stephen's eyes widened, taken aback. I don't know what you think you heard. I know what I heard, Jamie cut in. Because they recorded it. They were so worried, they recorded it. You want to discuss accountability? Let's discuss a talk show host who uses his show to settle personal vendettas. Cameras swung frantically, attempting to capture every moment of this historic moment. Studio personnel murmured to each other. The audience was glued to their seats, frozen. This wasn't a breakdown. This was a confrontation that laid bare the actual machinery of celebrity, TV, and egos that power them both. Stephen was visibly shaken now. His quick wit had abandoned him entirely. That's totally out of context, he stuttered. Whatever you think you know. I know you spent 20 minutes in that meeting, Jamie broke in, his tone even but hard. I know you told your employees you wanted to embarrass me on live TV. I know you said, and I'm quoting, I want to make him squirm like the arrogant piece of garbage that he is. Those were your precise words, Stephen. Your precise words. Gasps of shock spread across the room. Phones were being furtively pulled out, in spite of the explicit no recording rule. The room had an electric, volatile charge. It did not feel like a TV show anymore. It felt like something much, much closer to reality. Stephen scanned the room frantically, like a man looking for a way out. Jamie, I believe you're misunderstanding the creative process, he told him, his voice trembling. Sometimes we brainstorm things. Ideas that might sound brutal at first. Creative process? Jamie interrupted. You refer to plotting someone's public humiliation a creative process? You refer to using your stage as a tool of intimidation against people who've wronged you creative? You're mangling everything, Stephen replied. Then tell us what did happen, Stephen. Tell them, Jamie motioned to the crowd. Tell these people why you attacked a man who just emerged from the worst fight of his life. Tell them why tonight was the time you saw fit to attempt to ruin my reputation. Stephen's mouth opened, then shut again. No words escaped. The band leader made discreet gestures to the musicians, obviously getting ready for a potential emergency commercial break. But the producers, paralyzed. They realized they were watching television history unfold. I'll explain what happened, Jamie told him, his tone firm, but seething with indignation. You got humiliated 3 years ago at an awards show. I had made a joke about your program in my acceptance speech. Just a one-off. Inoffensive, the kind of good-natured joshing everyone in this business laughs off. He hesitated. But you didn't laugh. You clung to it. You nursed it. You waited. And look at us now. Stephen's reply was half-hearted. That's not true. Jamie didn't bat an eye. It is true, and everyone sitting here tonight can sense it. Everyone sitting at home tonight can witness it. You're not a journalist tonight, Stephen. You're not a comedian. You're not even a host. You're just a resentful man with an axe to grind and a soapbox, attempting to harm someone who once made you feel inferior. Silence filled the studio. A few individuals in the first row shifted in their seats. Some avoided looking. Others gazed rigidly ahead, not even blinking. Jamie spoke to them. Look at them, he said, motioning to the audience. They came here tonight to laugh, to forget about their problems for a little while, to be entertained. Instead, you've made this about you. You've used this platform, this space, like their time, to work through your personal issues, at my expense and at theirs. Finally, Stephen found his voice again, but it was brittle, defensive. I'm simply doing my job, asking the questions people want answered. Jamie shook his head. You're not doing your job. You're being cruel. And there is a big difference between asking difficult questions and bashing someone simply because you can. His voice held the weight of a man who'd suffered more than anyone knew, and wasn't going to let this moment encapsulate him. You took a man who nearly died, who had to struggle each day just to step back onto this stage. and you attempted to destroy him. For your entertainment. For your bitterness. He stopped again, his tone lower now, more subdued. And the worst part is, I really admired you. I saw your act. I laughed at your humor. I stood up for you, Jamie told him, his words firm but cold. When folks called you too political, too cynical, too brutal, I defended you. I believed you were one of the good guys. I believed you used humor to make the world slightly better. But now I realize you're just another human using comedy to belittle others. Stephen remained immobile. He was red-faced, a slick of perspiration budding beneath the intense studio lights. He resembled a man who had utterly misread the moment and now paid the cost on live television in front of millions. Jamie, perhaps we can take a break, he began to say, reaching out for an escape. Jamie wasn't so inclined. No, he interrupted brusquely. No commercial break. You wanted it to go down live, in front of everybody. So, we're going to wrap it up live. You don't get to begin something and then quit just because it didn't turn out as scripted. The viewers sat transfixed. Others leaned forward, totally engaged. The camera crew continued to roll, taping every moment of what had become one of the most memorable interviews in late-night television history. Want to see what accountability is, Stephen? Jamie demanded, taking a step forward. It's standing up when you've blown past a line. It's saying sorry when you've hurt someone who didn't deserve it. It's being man enough to tell the truth. I'm sorry. Stephen spoke in a barely audible whisper. I don't think I owe an apology for doing my job. Your work, Jamie asked its voice, your work is to make people laugh, to be funny, to provide a little spark when the world is dark. Your work is not to be another part of that darkness. It's not to be the one who kicks the downed person. It's not to use your platform to take personal shots at people who made you feel vulnerable once. Jamie slowly approached Stephen's desk. His tone was even, but each sentence fell with impact. You want to know what my work is? He went on. My work is to make smiles. To bring people a little bit of joy through music, through films, through laughter. My work is to be thankful for the second chance that has been granted to me, to return stronger after going through something that took almost everything from me. Then Jamie addressed the crowd, now speaking to them face to face. These individuals did not come to this event tonight to witness an argument between friends. They didn't pay to see you act out your fears in front of a live crowd. They are here because they wanted to celebrate, because someone they loved fought through something horrific, and they wanted to be a part of that. Some folks nodded, others applauded lightly at first, then more insistently. Jamie was ringing true. You could feel the tide of the room turn. The crowd was with him. They deserve more than this, Jamie said, sweeping his arm across the room. They deserve a host who builds up, not tears down. They deserve a person who knows that comedy can heal and not hurt. Someone who believes that having a platform isn't just about power, it's about responsibility. Stephen attempted one final time to cut in. Jamie, I believe you're being... I'm telling you the truth, Jamie interrupted. And perhaps that's something you ought to attempt. Perhaps, rather than attacking your visitors, you should look at your own motives. Perhaps, rather than sitting behind your journalist excuse, you should confess that this wasn't about your audience. This was about you, your ego. Jamie reached for his glass of water from the side table and slowly, deliberately drank. The silence between them was thick as fog. When he did speak, he sounded quiet, but each word sliced deeper than ever. You know, Stephen, I've been in this business a long time. I've seen careers rise and fall. I've learned that the people who truly last the ones who build something meaningful, are the ones who understand success isn't about tearing others down. It's about lifting everyone up with you. He set the glass down, locking eyes with Stephen. But I've also seen people get a little bit of power and mistake that for permission to be cruel. People who confuse meanness with intelligence. People who think humiliating someone makes them look strong. Those people don't last, Stephen. They might have their moment, but eventually everyone sees through them. The studio was so silent you could hear the air conditioning hum. Stephen resembled wanting to melt away into his chair. I arrived here tonight in good faith, Jamie went on. Ready to laugh, ready to tell jokes, ready to entertain your audience. I arrived here as a friend. But you had a different agenda, didn't you? You figured you could exact your revenge for something I said 3 years ago. Something I really can't even remember. Jamie adjusted his jacket and looked around the studio once more. Well, congratulations, Stephen. You got your revenge. You jumped a guy who was just trying to get his life back in gear. You used your show as a weapon. You let every single person in this audience down who came thinking they would get better from you. He started to head to the side of the stage, and then hesitated and turned around. But you know what? I'm not going to let you spoil this for me. I'm not going to let your bitterness and petty-mindedness rob me of my happiness. I'm not going to let you steal what it is to live, to be well, to get to do what I love. The crowd started to applaud, hesitantly at first, increasing into a growing wave of applause, building into a deafening ovation. One by one, the individuals rose from their seats until almost the entire studio was standing, applauding Jamie. Stephen was seated, frozen behind his desk, silent and speechless. To all of you here tonight, and all of you watching at home, Jamie began, his voice resounding in the room, this isn't what entertainment is supposed to be. This isn't what kindness is supposed to be. This isn't what responsibility is supposed to be. You are worth better than this. And I give you my word, every time I have the opportunity to entertain you, I'm going to give you something that builds you up, not tears you down. He gestured to the crowd of cheering people, then proceeded toward the band. He shook the hand of the band leader, who muttered words of encouragement in his ear. Jamie, wait! Stephen shouted frantically, finally getting up from behind his desk. Don't go like this! We can fix this. Jamie did a final turn. His face was close to being one of pity. Stephen, the only thing you need to figure out is whatever's wrong with you inside, that made you think it was okay. That's not my problem to fix. That's yours. And with that, Jamie Foxx strode off the stage to still thunderous applause, Stephen Colbert sitting by himself at his desk now, his face red with embarrassment and humiliation. The cameras picked up every detail as Stephen gazed around cluelessly, not knowing how to salvage what had just happened. The situation cued the musicians, and they launched into an impromptu jazz piece, a soulful tribute to his dignity and aplomb in the face of insult. The crowd just kept clapping and cheering, many of them casting sidelong glances at Stephen, with expressions ranging from dismay to revulsion. Stephen finally sank back into his chair, running his hands through his hair. He stared directly into the camera for a long moment. For a brief second, it seemed like he might try to explain himself, to salvage something from the wreckage of the interview. But instead, he quietly said, "We'll be right back." And the show cut to commercial. Audiences everywhere were left speechless by what they had just seen. This was not merely a celebrity interview that had gone haywire. This was a lesson in how personal grudges can ruin working relationships, how power corrupts even the most well-respected individuals, and how grace under fire can expose one's true nature. Jamie Foxx strode off that stage with his integrity in place. leaving Stephen Colbert to deal with the fallout of allowing personal emotions get in the way of professional obligations. What did you make of this dramatic showdown? Did Stephen Colbert go too far? Or was Jamie Foxx being hypersensitive? Leave your thoughts in the comments section. And don't forget to subscribe for more in-depth explorations of the moments that make Hollywood. Because this unedited, unfiltered drama reminds us that under all the glitz and glamour, these are human beings with real feelings, real resentments, and real repercussions when it all gets out of hand.